Hello and welcome to Getting Hammered, the podcast where we show you behind the curtain of Scottish property investing, all while getting hammered at the same time. I am John Morris, one of the owners of Prime Property Auctions, Scotland's best auction house.
I'm Lewis Goreen, also owner of Prime Property Auctions, and in the spirit of being transparent, we decided we wanted to start a limited series podcast answering all the questions you guys might have on property investing and specifically auctions. And one of the things we get asked a lot is, how do you spot a good deal? How do you analyse a good deal? What's the process?
We will look at how to analyse deals, strategies to implement, where you should buy properties, should you use deal sources, or should you just come straight to Prime Property Auctions in our massive supermarket.
And we do a lot of events across the country on property investing, talks where we talk about all the ways you can kind of make money at auction. And we get a lot of questions from newbie and seasoned investors about getting started and how to leverage sourcers.
Although our main focus at the moment is obviously on the business and building Prime Property Auctions, we've also spent years building our own portfolios, and we know a thing or two about investing in property.
Perfect. Let's get into it. So we did have a thing where we would take a shot when one of us said the buzzword, which was deal, but neither of us are drinking right now. So
Correct.
we have some mango smoothie, which we will take a small sip of every time we say deal. Cheers.
I feel like we're going to need a lot of smoothie.
I think we have a huge bottle, so
Okay.
we're all good. Okay, let's get started. So, John, before you start looking at property,
Yes.
do you think it is important to decide on a strategy?
100%. Ultimately, if you don't have a strategy in mind, you're just pissing in the wind. Because do you want capital growth? Are you looking for yield? Are you do you have a small pot and that is the only pot you have, so you're going to need to recycle it? So if you do not have the correct strategy in mind, then you kind of are just buying blind. You don't know what to do. I literally had a conversation with a guy today, and he made an offer on a property that we're selling, that we did a deal of the week for, so we got loads of interest in it. And we had a previous offer on it. So he was like, what was your previous offer? I told him. So we had an offer of 170. He's like, I'll give you 172. So I asked him today, I was like, where did the 172 come from? He's like, oh, because somebody else offered 170. And I was like, well, this is a property that it's got a home report of £240,000. So it's massively discounted and it's serviced accommodation. And I was like, well, have you ran your numbers? He's like, I don't know the numbers. I don't know the nightly rate. I was like, okay. So you're willing to buy it because it's a nice property. It's got a great view. You're buying on discount, but what's the cash flow? So he did say, he's like, I'm just getting started. Yeah. I'm not too sure.
It's almost like, I want a deal. Okay, I'm telling you it's worth 250. Oh, okay, well, you can get it at this price. Okay, that's a deal. But if you don't know your strategy, you don't know what a good deal is, do you?
Exactly.
And a good deal might be different if you have a different strategy. Like, some people can pay more because they have a different exit for that deal. I've said deal like 4 times.
Yeah. Do we both have to do it?
I guess so. Yeah. There's lumps in this. Are you tasting those lumps?
It's like bubble tea or something like that.
So basically, like, if someone is looking at something as a buy-to-let, they can only pay a certain amount of money for that property based on it being run as a buy-to-let. Mm-hmm. But if someone can run it as an SA, a serviced accommodation unit, where they're charging by the night, that deal can look very different.
Yes. Especially what I'm seeing most investors do now is actually they run their numbers to see if it will work as SA first, and then and they can try it, because you can run the numbers, and in theory, yes, this property looks like it's going to be a cracker, and then you actually implement it, and for whatever reason trying to get cleaners in the area is a little bit difficult, or the specific like guests that you're getting are just wrecking the place and it's costing too much. So if that strategy doesn't work, you want to have the backup plan to be able to go, does it still work as a buy to let? Because serviced accommodation is obviously the sexy high cash flow investing strategy that everybody wants to get involved in. But buy to lets is kind of the foundation of investing. It's like if you've just got super boring, but you know there's always going to be tenants in it, it's not massive ROI, depending on obviously what you bought it for and if you've refinanced, etc. But they're good, and I do think, especially in the new space of property education and people want to get into it, buy-to-lets are overlooked massively, and serviced accommodation is almost becoming oversaturated. Everyone just like, I'll just buy a 3-bedroom house and turn it into a serviced accommodation.
And the numbers look good when you look at it that way. But ultimately it's a much more active strategy. So it's almost like you're taking on a business. So if you have a full-time job and you're trying to run essays, it's a bit difficult. Unless you obviously get a management company.
But then, I mean, management companies, it's serviced accommodation, that's a full-time business and they charge a lot for it. It's usually like 18-20%. They are dealing with all the heavy lifting and the headache for you, organising the cleaners and collecting the money and stuff. But
I think it's like anything, unless you have a goal. If you're playing football without goalposts, like you're just running about, not doing anything. So I think having the end in mind is important, and that definitely dictates your strategy. Like if you want to replace your job, your income, you might want to look at higher yielding stuff. That would just be stuff that's maybe cheaper purchase price wise, but comparatively still good rents, and to allow you to quit your job, because that will build up a good monthly income. But if you don't necessarily want to do that and you just want your capital to grow, you might not want to build a portfolio of like high yielding stuff, which is cheap, but also high turnover, a bit more headache to have.
Well, as we know, like property is a long-term game. And if you want to invest, because if you have a high-paying job and you get paid quite well, and I know I speak to people and they're like, I want to go full-time in property. And like, what does that really mean? Like, because if you're full-time in property, yes, you get to choose your own hours and you get to do this, but ultimately you end up working more hours because you always need that next property transaction to go over. You need to find, I want to say this, the D word that we're not allowed to say. So
I said it in the past and we didn't take a shot.
This is going to be impossible. There is no way that I can have a conversation without saying the banned word.
It's very much entrenched in our vocabulary.
Yes.
We use it all the time, but...
So I've lost my train of thought because
trying not to
saying the D word. But yeah, so if someone is hell bent on only buying properties that are 50% below market because they've got a really small pot, because they've saved up this pot of cash because they want to get out of their job, right? Then they have to use the BRR method. They physically have to. Whereas if someone is in a job and they're getting paid 100 grand a year and they're quite happy with it, then do they want to invest for the long term and buy better assets and just wait and watch the capital growth? Because tend to find, especially if you're buying in Edinburgh, the standard yield is about 5%. In better areas, I mean, if you're buying flats in Stockbridge, it might be as low as 3%. But the capital growth on those properties over 10 years are considerably higher.
That's where you make your money. It's the capital growth, right?
Exactly.
Because if you were to buy, say, a flat for 45 grand and you're netting £250 a month, then you buy a flat for, say, 125 grand and you still net the same £250 a month. Over 5 years, you'll have made the same amount in cash flow. Mm-hmm. But the flat that you bought 125 might have appreciated 20, 25 grand. Whereas the flat you bought at 45 probably stayed the same, and you'll be exiting to another investor who's also going to want a deal because that's what you did on purpose. There's lumps in this. Are you feeling the lumps?
Stop saying the word lumps, man.
There's a lump in your buzzword. So yeah, I think strategy is important, because if you don't know where you're going, how do you know what to do? And depending on what you want to happen. So if you want to go full time into property, and the guys that we know that have tried to do that and have done it, typically have bought higher yielding stock, which is cheaper stuff that yields well. And then when they get to a point where that's bringing in enough income, they can go full time. They start doing other things, and they're like, this is actually quite a hassle to own. And then they look to offload and buy maybe fewer, better stock. So that's kind of the life cycle of a property investor.
Because I did Paul's course at the start of the year, and it was very interesting because there was quite a lot of business owners there that are clearly making good money. No, I want to get into property, and the course obviously covers absolutely everything that you can go over. Obviously, property courses are very good for people getting into it and covering all the basics. But most people just want to buy properties because they want to get a return. And everybody I was speaking to in that event, I was like, it's actually for my pension. I don't have a pension, so I know if I just buy properties, then I can do that. Because the people that want to go into it full time, you're either going to have to be trading properties, so or sourcing them on, or flipping them,
doing something active, not necessarily investing.
So a lot of or like property management is a big one. It's like, okay, yeah, so they'll find an investor, find the property for them, they buy it, then they manage the refurbs, then from there they'll take a fee, and then they'll put it on the market with an estate agent and hopefully sell it. The investor makes loads of money, and they'll get a cut or whatever. But again, it's very active, and you constantly need to find the next property, which is fine. You can do it, but it's, do you want to trade your 9 to 5 for something that is definitely not 9 to 5?
Yeah.
Shall we move on to the next question? So this one is one of my favourites. Is BMV still a strategy? And I will clarify, BMV stands for below market value.
Is it a strategy? I don't know. It is definitely a thing. I think BMV, so everyone wants BMV, they want deals. I'm actually not doing that on purpose. Right, it's more lumps.
I don't like how you say that, the lumps, before I have to take a swig either. Yeah, I got some lumps there, yeah.
So there's definitely properties out there that are priced below what the market would value at. But ultimately, the market value of a property is what someone's willing to pay. That's always what we tell sellers and buyers. There is situations where what's important to a seller isn't necessarily price as much as terms of sale. So they might opt for a lower price with a quicker completion because they need the money, or for a variety of other reasons. And if you can offer that solution, you can then offer that property to the open market and achieve market value, or what you would class as market value. But market value as a definition, I think, changes as well depending on your strategy and how quickly you want to exit.
I do think that obviously property investors get a bad rap for making low offers on things. But if a property is not getting offers at a certain level because it needs all these different things done to it, then as you're saying, it's like that becomes the market value. Can you drive that value up by putting a new boiler in, by rewiring it, by putting a new kitchen? Of course you can. But you're not just going to buy like an all singing, all dancing, brand new house on a great street, BMV. It's just not going to happen because the market will demand offers over home report on that street.
Which, in that price that it sells for, will be market value, because that will go down as a comparable when you look in the future. So yes, BMV is definitely a thing. It's just again, it comes down to strategy, which is the first question. What's your strategy? And that will influence what BMV is to you. Because another thing that value would be, or how someone would see market value as, is maybe what you could refinance something at, which isn't necessarily what you could sell it for.
As Chris DL would say, getting steamy
steamy valuation.
A steamy value,
Yeah.
when it is a pumped up value that he knows, not on a month of Sundays, is he ever going to be able to sell that property for that if he was put it on the market in its current condition, but the bank are willing to give him that value. So if they say that property is worth £100,000, excellent, he can pull £75,000-80,000 out of that property, but based on its current condition, does he think that if he put it straight in the market, would somebody buy it for £100,000? Probably
And this
not.
is where we've obviously been part of one cycle for the majority of the time. So just to kind of explain what this means. So if someone was to look at a property and the bank says this property is worth 100,000, or we would lend 100,000 based on this property, and you were to get a mortgage on this property at 75% value, the bank will effectively be in it for £75,000. Even though it might know that it won't sell for 100,000 because it knows that it's only in it for 75. So worst case scenario, it can repossess the asset and sell it for maybe what they're in it for, maybe a wee bit more.
Yeah.
But they're not exposed to the remainder. So that's where investors are able to use these creative finance strategies to build portfolios based on valuations that aren't necessarily market value, which is what you could sell it for, but it still works with everyone involved.
And that's why obviously one lender to a next will have different criteria of themselves. We've actually already got too many loans out on that street, so we won't give any more loans. It's not necessarily the property's not worth anything. It's like we give you a nil value because we are not giving you any money to lend because we're overexposed in that street.
Yeah, and that's people who say down values, the values that a lender will give you, will value something that is based on their willingness to lend on it. It's not actually a valuation of the market. It's not what it might sell for. It's their appetite to lend on it at this price. That's what they're saying. So it's very interesting. Market value depends on who is looking at it and what's involved.
Definitely. I mean, ultimately, you make your money when you buy. If you buy a property for £50,000 and the next day you can sell it for 100,000, that's a really good deal. Oh, fuck. Why is that the word?
It's really hard not to say it.
It's impossible. Because, I mean, if everybody had a time machine, just go back to 2010 when the arse fell out the market. Just buy everything. Just buy everything. And wait.
That's the funny thing. You zoom out long enough or far enough, everything goes up. If you zoom in, you see the peaks and valleys, but you zoom out, the trajectory's up. So it's just, are you able to stay in the deal for long enough? And that's where people get caught out, is they can't because they have lending and the lending gets called in or whatever happens.
You said deal again.
Didn't
You didn't even notice.
it just comes out.
It just comes out.
Right, another.
I'm happy that I'm not drinking today because
Be hammered already.
I would be shit-faced already.
So, yes, there is BMV. It's still a strategy. It just depends on what the strategy is. So, if you're wanting to buy something and then sell it straight away, you would work out the market value of what you could sell it for really quickly.
Definitely. I mean, ultimately, it's part of a strategy. You always want to be buying the property for the best possible price, but what are you going to do with it afterwards? So, buying below market value is part of the strategy. Are you going to refinance it and use it as a buy-to-let? Or are you going to refinance it and use it as a service accommodation? Or are you just going to leave your money in because it's a really good transaction already, and you just go, okay, well, I know I'm going to get my money back out in 24 months anyway.
Yeah.
So it's part of a strategy.
Agreed. So what's the first thing that you look at, John, when a postcode comes across your desk? How do you value something?
The first thing I do, I go on Rightmove. That's genuinely the first thing.
Pretty universal. Yeah.
I mean, you want to check comparables in there. it's a numbers game.
That's what a surveyor will do, right? They'll just look at comparables.
They look at comparables. I mean, obviously, I trained as a surveyor, and I genuinely remember being in a lecture, pretty hungover, and this was before Rightmove. And so back when in Scotland, before you got home reports, if you were ever just buying a property, every single property that you were going to buy, you went and got your own survey done. So obviously surveyors were making loads of money because say there's a house and 20 people wanted to buy it. That means 20 surveys were getting done on that property. And actually what happened was a politician who got fucking sick to the back teeth of making offers on properties, paying for surveys on each property and not getting them. So that's why they implemented the home reports.
Wow, I didn't know that. Yeah.
So I was in university, and so Alison Andrews was a lecturer, and she basically said, so in order to work out the value of a property, you phone your mate who works at a different surveying firm. I was like, excuse me? And she was like, yeah, so if you know that your mate went and did a survey down the street for a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, you would just phone them and say, so what kind of price? Because obviously the client is telling them what they're offering on it. So it's like, oh yes, I'm offering £300,000 in this property. Can you go check it out and make sure there's no issues with the roof, blah, blah, blah. So they are getting all the information of all their clients, what they're offering. So that, yes, we went and surveyed it, and we probably thought like our client was offering this. So they were getting all that instant feedback. And I just remember I was like, so in order for me to work out the value of a property, I just ask other people and collect all the data. It's like, yeah, ultimately, like you ask somebody else, and if it had it was a little bit more dated, then obviously you reduce it £10,000-15,000. If it's obviously a little bit better, it's got a better kitchen, then you add a couple of. And I was just like light bulb moment of like, I can be very good at this job. Like that's if it's just
you talk to people.
If it's just talking to people, I can find it out. But then obviously with the implementation of Rightmove, they have all that data. So you don't even need to phone people. You just need to go on the website. Yeah. But there's difference of, you can have all the data in the world. If you do not know how to read the data, then you're not really going to do well. Because it's funny, I mean, we obviously see sources all the time and just been like, look, this is what, and then we're like, that's not comparable, that's not comparable. Mm-hmm. Like, okay,
apples
that's
oranges.
Yeah. But there's also the ability to pull other properties that may be slightly different, but you can say, well, actually, this is the top level of the surrounding area. And if you're doing flips, the idea should be to be breaking the ceiling of the sale prices in the area, because it's you want to buy in a good area. You want to do it to the absolute nines. So then a young family wants to go in and they will pay that 25% over the home report value just to get it because they're wowed. You don't want to just buy a property, lick a paint, and then stick it on and hope for the best. Like, that's not a good way to implement doing flips.
Yeah, I guess a surveyor would look at comparables and maybe give the home report at the highest comparable. And then whatever the difference is of what that family pays becomes the new standard. And then that becomes the next home report for the next flip.
Exactly.
And then it's whoever offers over.
There is ultimately there's always going to be a ceiling to that. But in saying that, if, as you say, like that new standard is that, okay, this is what this sold for. Because then ultimately, if people can't afford it, because the higher it goes, more people are like, okay, well, I can't actually afford that, whatever.
That's the crazy thing. Like, me and Gemma did a flip a couple of years ago in Yoker, and for those of you that know Yoker, it's probably not the most attractive area in terms of property prices either. But we had a beautiful sandstone house, semi-detached house in a wee cul-de-sac, and we, after doing the refurb, we did basically everything too. We spent 85 grand on it. And after doing everything, we got the surveyor to come out and do a home report. And she put the value at £350,000, which I knew was going to price out a lot of people that would look at buying in that street, in that area. And some people might want to over-egg the home report to just try and get more money. But I knew that if it was too high, people would just not even look at it. They would just be priced out.
Yeah, because it's like, oh, well, the home report's 350, so therefore I'm going to have to offer 375 to get this property.
Exactly. So what ended up happening is I asked the surveyor, can you please set the home report value at 335? And she was like, why would you do that? I was like, because it's going to price people out, and I don't want people to be priced out. I would rather someone offered me 10% over home report, but they actually offered at that lower home report value than just no one offering.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. Someone came in, we had one viewer, and she was the person that bought it, and she offered 10% over the home report value. And I know from interactions with them through the estate agent that she would not have touched it if it was any more than that in terms of home report value.
It's also crazy because obviously we deal with solicitors all the time, and solicitors are advising their clients on what to offer, but they are advising their client what to offer on how to definitely get the property.
Yeah,
it's not advising the client on what is the property worth. And it's funny because obviously some of my friends, they know I'm in property, and they'll message me and say, what would you offer on this property? And I was like,
so what would you do? Like, what's the thing you would do when they ask you that? What would be the process of thought?
My first response to them is, what I would offer is fucking different from what you would offer. Are you buying this to live in this for the next 5 to 10 years? Are you okay with doing a refurb? Obviously, I'll check out the listing.
You look how long it's been on.
Correct. See how many. It's like, ask them, have you viewed it? Has there been any notes of interest? Is there a closing date? All these different things. And usually when my friends are messaging me, there's usually a closing date. And at which point, if you're offering at a closing date and you definitely want the property, it's how much are you willing to offer? And if you found out somebody offered an extra $3,000 and you still had that money, would you be pissed off if you didn't offer that $3,000? And that's where estate agents obviously get people by the balls, because, and everyone will know, if you phone an estate agent, it's like, oh, it's going to a closing date. What kind of price does the client want? It's going to a closing date, can't talk. You'd get your solicitor to issue the offer here and that's it. And you're okay, well, do you have expectations? Nope, we can't discuss that with you. Just get your solicitor to offer. And like, fucking thanks very much.
Do you think that's a good strategy though, for getting the best price?
It definitely is a great strategy in getting the best price. Is it definitely going to get the best terms? Because people were like, fuck it. And then just offer £400,000. Home report's 300.
Yeah, and then
then 6 months later they're like,
oh, I couldn't get lending on the rest of it.
Yeah, I needed to sell something else, and that's not sold. So it's obviously the figure is great, and like they are very good at extrapolating the massive value, because obviously at auction you only have to go £1,000 more each bid, but it's I can go again. I can go again. I could go again.
And I guess estate agents obviously get paid more the higher the price goes, and they don't really care too much, or they don't care as much as the seller if it falls through, because of their actions of trying to drive the price as high as possible.
Yeah. But ultimately, if someone's asked me that, it's I will run the numbers based on, okay, what's the home report value, and then I'll check and I'll say, look, I think that's probably a fair value. Are you planning on doing any work to it? Excellent. If you were to, like, what would you be happy buying it at? And then if you're buying the property, say the property's worth £125,000 and it's in a good area, it doesn't need much work done to it. Okay, are you then happy to pay 140 to definitely get that property? Yes. Well, offer fucking 140.
Yeah.
But the solicitors are like, they don't look at the sales evidence or anything like that. They just go, you'll have to offer 20% over.
That's it. Like when Gemma was buying her flat in Glasgow, she's from Aberdeen. She had an Aberdeen solicitor that helped her out with the offer, and that's what he said. He said, just offer 10% over home report. Meanwhile, that flat had been sitting in the market for like 6 months. So, solicitors
to be fair, again, it's like, she would have got it for 10% over.
Yeah, you could have got it for a lot less, I think. Yeah. Okay, so we've kind of touched on how you would look at it as a homeowner, or if one of your friends asked you. But going into the next question, how would you analyse a deal for investment? What would be the process?
Is this if somebody sends me a deal, or if I'm just
So say you're
the
looking.
D word? Who said the D word?
Oh, for fuck's
I don't like the lumps.
Yeah,
I really don't.
avoided it. So this is if someone, if you're looking for an investment to add to your portfolio.
Okay.
How do you do it?
First off, I pick, or I'm very area specific. So I look on areas that I am looking to buy in, and then I'll go. First off, I'll go a quarter mile out, and I'll also set the target range of what I want to buy. So if my budget is £80,000, then what I'll do is I'll usually set the maximum price that I'm willing to bid, or the maximum search value at around £90,000. Because the likelihood is if something's on, it offers over 100, that I'm going to get it for 80 or below is unlikely. So once I've found the property, I will then ask for the home report, get the home report through, and then I go on the market and I check for how many properties are actually on the market for rent.
So that's specifically on the market, the platform.
I use it on the market because if we'll use it as buy to let, for buy to lets, because if I'm buying and holding, then because on the market, more letting agents subscribe to on the market than Rightmove, because Rightmove is really expensive.
Interesting, yeah. So on the market has better data for lettings. Comparables.
Because I think when they actually first started, they wanted to empower letting agents or something, and so it was like powered by. So I'll always look on the market for rental figures, because if I'm looking in an area that I want to add to my portfolio and there's nothing on for rent, that's a good sign. Mm-hmm. It means there's high demand. So if I can buy that property, then it's probably going to rent out quite well. From there, excellent, right, okay, I know this property is worth £80,000. There's not a lot on in the area for rentals. I think it's going to rent for £700, between, say, £600, £700. Tick, excellent. I've reviewed the home report, there's nothing glaring on it. Then the next thing to do is phone the estate agent and see if estate agent or auction house or whoever is selling the fucking property, and then make an offer based on the numbers, based on comparables. I don't give a fuck about going into the property. Like,
you don't view?
I know. Like, see, I do not view properties before I buy them.
How is that possible?
Do you know the thing is, it's so fucking annoying, because there's an estate agent in Fife that says, we don't take offers that fashion. Thanks. So I went and did a day's viewing with the viewing agent, really nice guy. And I said, look, I think this is a colossal waste of time, because I want to offer this, this, and this on these properties. I ended up buying one. I viewed 5 properties that day. I ended up buying one. But I already knew what I was going to offer before going out. But they insisted that I went to view. Thankfully, the viewing agent was really nice. And I just said, look, so are you mostly the viewing agent yet? And I was like, so do you get paid to come out and do the viewings? I was like, sound. Right, so that, like, they're charging the client to make you come out. Excellent. I said, I don't want to come, but can I just take your number, and if I book a viewing through you guys again, you can go to the viewing, and I'm happy to FaceTime you.
Yeah.
Like, I physically do not need to go into the property. I've been into thousands upon thousands of properties. I know what they're like. I can tell.
Yeah. I guess why estate agents do viewings is if someone has viewed the property and they then make an offer, they're much more likely to go ahead and complete.
True.
With us in auction, when you buy a property, you agree to buy something, you pay the deposit, it's non-refundable, you're committed. So that issue doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. So I guess it's just a point of friction with estate agents selling it under private treaty, where there's not really any commitment until missives are concluded, that they do a viewing, because it means that the buyer's probably more likely to complete. In terms of how I would do it, so when I was building the portfolio with Gemma, I would, what we wanted to do is we wanted to do BRR, so we would buy, refurb, refinance. We would buy with cash, we would then do the refurb, and then we would refinance onto a long-term product to pull as much money back out as we could. And the way I did it was I would have I think I went on Rightmove, I would look at oldest to newest listed, look for stuff that was sitting on the market, that was on maybe with solicitors, It's a wee hack for people that know. So some solicitors advertise properties for sale, but they're not necessarily estate agents or salesmen. So they might not do the best job at getting the word out there about a property or advertising or listing it.
And they also, like, the majority of stuff that, say, solicitors that aren't estate agents get is usually executory stuff. So it's the stuff that you can do BRRs on.
Yeah, so stuff that's maybe a wee bit tired. Someone's unfortunately passed away and the family's just selling it, and it needs work. So I would look at oldest to newest. I would then literally I would add the property to Trello. I would use a software called Trello, where I would have different columns for different stages. The first stage was like property of interest. And then I would organise a viewing for each one, not because I needed to see it, but because I knew that you needed to view to make an offer with these guys. And I would go to the viewing. So it would just be very methodical, very high volume. And then once I, obviously before doing all this, I would do the numbers. I would have a spreadsheet where I would analyse what it might go for, and I would do the exact same. I'd look at Rightmove, I would look at On the Market, I'd look at comparables, and I would find out what I could potentially refinance this at based on comparables after doing a refurb.
How many comparables would you go for and put through your spreadsheet?
I think at least 3, I would say. It gives you a good idea. Some streets have a lot more data than others, as you know. Some of them are really, there's a lot of activity sales-wise. Some of them, there's not been anything in 10 years. Mm-hmm. So you just use your best guess. You just keep going further out if there's nothing on that street. But you would do your numbers.
Did you ever phone agents when you were looking at buying stuff and see what end value was?
I think that's probably something I missed. I didn't. I would purely just look at the data rather than talking to people. I probably should have talked to people. But I would do my numbers. I'd look at what I could refinance for. I would look at what a refurb might cost, and then I would look at what I could pay. Mm-hmm. So I would work backwards. What could I refinance this at based on a refurb at this amount, so that I could leave, say, 5 or 10 grand in the deal. That would tell me my purchase price. And when you work backwards that way, it doesn't matter what the home report says. It doesn't matter what the list that's listed at. It matters what you're willing to pay. So I had very firm numbers. And then I would offer these on these properties, and most people would say no. But because of the amount of volume, someone would say yes. And I picked up some really good deals where we got most of our money back out in... just realised. This is around COVID time when deals... Fucking hell, sorry. I'm so sorry.
It's the lumps in it as well.
No,
it's making it so...
Why is it so hard?
It's so unenjoyable. This was from our event. We were giving this people.
I know. It's so bad. Sorry, everyone that came. I'm so sorry. What was I saying?
You said the word deal fucking 15 times. You were buying during COVID times.
Yes. So during COVID, where properties were going for a lot more than they were supposedly worth, managed to get some really good properties at really good prices because of the amount of volume I was doing in terms of offers and building up that pipeline that would then convert into someone saying, fine. And that's how I would do it. I would analyse it, look at comparables, book in loads of viewings, make loads of offers, and work backwards in terms of my numbers.
Can I just say, you said something like very poignant there. You worked out your numbers and worked backwards, so irrelevant of the home report.
Irrelevant.
It means that you know what you can offer. Because I literally have a great example of this, was the house that me and Stacey live in. The home report was 330, and it needed loads of work done to it. But I knew, and this is like a 3/4 bedroom house in the south side of Glasgow, it's like I knew that flats up round the corner were selling for £300,000. So obviously I am a tight-fisted investor, and I was trying to buy it for £300,000, even though the home report was 330. But I knew there was value there, and when you're buying properties now, it's crazy because when I first started buying properties, effectively the bank would accept the home report from the estate agent. Now 9 out of 10 times, the bank is always going to have their own survey instructed. So I was aware of this anyway. So I actually managed to agree a price, and I paid £5,000 more than the home report value. but I got my bank to do their own survey, and they valued it at 350. So from day, and I knew this from the day. Obviously, I offered 300, then I went to 315, then I went to 320, and they actually took it off the market. Like, this guy's a dick, and we'll wait. We'll do the property up, and we'll sell it in the summer. And this was in, I think, November.
Yep.
And I was like, I'm buying this fucking house. So managed to get a deal agreed. I was like, what do they want for it? And to be fair, the agent who was like, if you give us over home report value, I reckon I can get a deal done. I was like, okay, well, I'll offer £5,000 over the home report value. But because I knew what it was actually worth, then I was willing to make that offer to get the deal. And as I say, I said the word deal.
Twice.
Yep.
The lumps, no.
But once the surveyor for my lender went out, it's worth more. So I actually instantly gained equity.
That's how you do it.
But by paying over home report.
Because home report is not market value.
No. It is somebody's opinion on market value.
We have a lot of arguments with surveyors when it comes to home reports. Where
So
surveyors
many.
say, the one we use all the time is surveyor said it can't be worth more than 25, right? And then we sold it like the next day for 40 something.
It was 20. They said it's like, even, and we bought a property, so we paid 30. They said it's not worth more than 20. And I went, you can shove that home report up your arse. And then we sold it that day for 40 grand plus fees.
There we go. So home report does not determine market value. So do your numbers, work backwards, so you know what you can pay for something. And when you can work backwards and you've got that figure of what it works at for you, it doesn't matter if that figure is 20 grand below home report on a 100 grand property. You'll be confident in that number, you'll make the offer, and if you make enough offers, someone will say yes, and you'll get a cracking deal. Lumps.
Oh. Should we, you know how it's like you can change so just instead of saying the D word, change it to lumps?
So we've talked about how we look at stuff to invest when we're investing. We do still invest. So I've still got a portfolio, but I don't actively buy. You buy one a year, something like that?
Yes. So I mean, again, vanilla stock, I like buying tenanted properties. I try and buy at least a 10% discount, and I ideally want a 10% return on my money. But again, the reason I invest is I am burying money away. I have a lump sum of cash. I'm buying a property, so I don't spend that on nefarious things.
Watches and
Watches
all that stuff.
And going to Vegas with you and gambling.
So that's how I would look at investing in a property to hold and refinance. For trading, which is where you buy and then you sell straight away, I would approach the valuation very differently. So I think what we do is, well, what I do when I get a postcode from someone that's looking to sell as a trade, I would first of all go on Rightmove, look at the comparables, and I'll look at the cheapest property that's sold on that street. And I'll use that as the benchmark of what we can then sell the property for, and then work backwards. So if there's comparables for one beds on that street selling at 30, 35, 34, 33, I'll know that if we want to make a margin, we'll probably need to pick up for low 20s. And that's how I base my, that's what I do to base what I do to formulate the offers on potential trades. It's looking at comparables, looking at the cheapest stuff that's sold in the area, and then working backwards.
Correct. It's a good way to do it. Definitely a good way to do it.
In auction, we have guide prices, and guide prices are what we advertise properties at. Estate agents use offers over, or what else do they use?
The offers in the region of fixed price.
Fixed price, yeah. What is the difference, and how reliable are they in indicating what a seller might take?
So the guide price is usually a very good guide on what the seller would accept. Standard auction is the reserve is usually within 10% of the guide price, usually. But you can also, so with that saying, you shouldn't have your guide price set lower than 10% of the reserve price. However, you can have a guide price at 100 and the reserve price can be £5,000. It's pointless doing that, because if the reserve price is £5,000 for something that is potentially worth 100, Because I've had it when people are like, I just want rid of it. I don't care. And you're like, it'll probably sell for like 50 grand. And they're like, I don't care. And then you're like, cool. Put it on at £2,000. And then everyone gets stiff nips and horny about buying this property for £2,000. And then it sells for £55,000. And everyone's like, oh, those bastard auction houses, they just put it on so cheap. It's like the seller said they would take fuck all for it.
But there is a market value, right?
Correct. And
People willing to
the
pay.
auction has done its thing and drove it to the market value. But again, so if you shouldn't have a reserve price super, super high, so you shouldn't have a reserve price at 100 and then a guide price of 1, because it's largely pointless. But the guide price is usually 10% within the reserve price. But obviously we are an online auction house as well, so we also have opening bid prices. That is where the auction will start at.
Which can be a lot lower, right?
Which can be a lot lower. Because ultimately, if the reserve price for something is £100,000, the guide price is 90. If the opening bid price is £75,000, because we can't, well, we don't, we obviously can, but we've chose not to so far of doing live auctions. Because if a good auctioneer's job is to get bids on the property, and I have been to auctions when an auctioneer stands there, 90, 90, 90, 90, 90, no bids, moving on. Same property comes over to us.
Flip that. No context.
Just me just shouting 90. But then they come over to us. We put it on, starting bid 75, couple of bids, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, and it ticks up. Say the bids finish at 88. Seller's like, yeah, I'll take it. But because the other auctioneer's gone, oh no, well, the reserve price was 100 and they wouldn't take anything less. It's like, people come to auction because they want the property sold. Let's face facts. They would want a little bit more, and so obviously we've got well over the reserve prices for a lot of our clients. And some clients we get a little bit less, but the most important thing is we get it sold.
Get it at a price they're happy with.
Correct. Like they are ultimately in control of what they sell the property for. So the guide price is a good guide onto what is accepted. And offers over is again usually slightly under the home report value, but you will have to offer over that in order to secure the property. If the agent is not getting much interest in offers over, they will then tend to fix it or they'll change it to fixed price, which is really good. If you see an agent changing something to fixed price, offer 10 grand under. Genuinely.
Yep. And what's funny is like we speak to settlers that have been on with agents, and it's not a fixed price of say 100, but we speak to them and they're like, well, I can take 90. I would sell it for 90. We're like,
what did I say? If you see a fixed price, offer 10 grand less.
Exactly, right, there we go. But it's like, why is the agent not updated the marketing price? Because if we were to take on, we would just put a guide of say 80, and we would get them
85,
what they wanted. So yeah, there we go.
So it's all psychology though, because people like to see themselves getting a deal. You fuck! I was so confident with that sentence as well, the way I said it.
No lumps. I'm just sipping it with my teeth, so no lumps come through.
There's been like a lump just at the corner there. Again, to go back to guide prices offers over, I would just focus on your own numbers. It doesn't matter if the guide price is 50, but you think that you can make a margin on buying it at 80, and you definitely get the property. To make the offer at 80. Because if you offer 50 and it's a no, then go back, offer 60. But don't worry about the marketing price, because ultimately you need to buy the property to make money.
Yep.
So if you're constantly, I missed out that deal, I was 5, almost that, I'm closer that time, closer. It's like, you need to buy the property. And sometimes you need to pay a little bit more than you initially wanted.
But it still works, right?
But as long as it still works, because when you were saying that when you wanted to refinance, you were leaving between 5 and 10 in the deal. However, there's probably contingency where you were like, do you know what? For 2 grand more.
Exactly. There's never black and white.
I'd rather
It's never
have that
black and white.
property. Actually, do you know what? It is a good area. There's strong demand in there. But some people are just like, nope. And those are the people that haven't bought a property in 15 years because they're still like, back in 1995, I bought this for a pack of chips. You're like, you're never going to buy a house again.
Yeah.
Markets change. You need to pay more, but you need to be aware. Because, I mean, see when we get a property and it's worth £100,000 and it's a landlord that's going, I mean, I've never touched the rents. The people always pay. And I mean, I bought it for 50 and it's worth 100 now. It's like, well, guess what? Because you've still rent that property at £400 a month, you're still going to get 50 grand.
Yep.
So if you're selling a tenanted property, then ultimately the value discrepancy is massive. And people aren't going to pay £100,000 for something that's tenanted at £350, £400. Ooh, this is a good one. What is an off-market property?
Ooh. The famous off-market properties that everyone wants.
The golden
I mean,
geese.
I guess the definition would just be properties that are not listed on the open market. They're not on Rightmove, they're not on Zoopla. They are not on the open market. I'd be interested to know how many sales in Scotland happen on market versus off market.
I have no idea. Do you know the thing is? So out of my portfolio, there's only one property I bought off market.
That's the crazy thing. I've bought every single one on market, all from estate agents on Rightmove.
Obviously, since having the auction house,
It's different.
it's far different because we are generating leads to either buy them or we're dealing. No, dealing, does that count?
Dealing.
Definitely doesn't.
We're on the
So we're in conversations with sourcers who are also, I don't know how, dealing with people off market.
Yep.
So how many properties have we bought off market since?
I think we've only bought a few on market, and we've bought over 30.
Why do people want off market properties, and why do people think that you can only make money from buying off market?
I don't know, and I don't understand. Like I have had opportunities presented, or I have presented opportunities to people, and they've asked, "Is this on market or off market?" Numbers work, but because it's on market, they're not interested, and they don't think they should pay a sourcing fee, which baffles me because if the numbers work, they work, no matter whether the property's on market or off market. So I don't know is the honest answer to that. Why would someone want to just buy off market stuff?
I think it's because they feel like that they're getting the first look, therefore they get to decide.
Maybe like they're getting shafted because it's on market and someone's charging a fee or something, which I really don't get.
This is it. I mean, we've dealt with plenty of sourcers, and we're happy to pay fees. If the numbers, we will offer this, and we will pay you this.
Yep.
Excellent, cool.
So
Where do we send our offer? Because we didn't know about that property until they brought it from.
They also negotiated the price, right?
Exactly.
They have the relationship with the agent, maybe. So even though there's an agent, a sourcer, and then us as the buyer, there's two layers.
Yeah.
We're still happy to pay a fee, even though it's on market, even though it's not even the sourcer that is in contact with the seller.
I do think that the people's thoughts around off market is everyone that sells off market is just going to give the property away. They'll take anything for the property. They'll fill in one of your Facebook ads, and they'll actually beg you to take their property. Please, I'll give you a £5, just take it off my hands. When most of the time people they want a fair value for the property, but as you've said before, it's the terms in which people are offering. Because usually the people who do buy off market are not using finance. They can complete quite quickly, or they're using different financing methods that can be quicker than, or the property may have a slight issue that will need resolved in order for the layman to get a mortgage on them. And some people just don't want the hassle with doing viewings, or
Yeah.
they don't want to pay for marketing.
It's a big one, yeah.
Yeah, obviously we are Prime Property Auctions, no sale, no fee. We cover all your marketing.
Supposed to not sell on this podcast, John.
We're not plugging. Well, fucking don't have me on this podcast then.
Yeah, and I think it's not. It's also they don't want maybe they don't want the property advertised online. They don't want people to know that they're selling. They don't want their neighbours to see what it's like inside, especially if it's like a hoarder's house or there's
Or a horse house.
that too. Maybe you'd want people to know.
Everyone knows about our house.
So there's loads of different reasons.
Have we ever sold a whore house?
I've been in one before as a potential buyer.
What?
There's a place in Mount Florida that was definitely a brothel. And it was like red lights and everything. And we ended up buying a flat beside it, but we went to go see that one, and it was just, there was no kitchen, there was nothing. It was just red lights, neon lights.
Tissues.
Really dingy, dingy, is that how you say it?
Dingy.
Dingy,
Yeah.
As a buyer.
So you had
Potential
the business mind. Like, I wonder what the
How
turnover
many rooms
is.
are here? Okay. Yep.
Oh, that wasn't off market though?
That was on market, funnily enough. Funnily enough, yeah. John, what's the weirdest thing that you've ever seen in a property?
There's loads of weird things, but again, I went to a repossessed property in Broughty Ferry, which is a lovely part, and it was a huge detached bungalow, and I parked outside it. There's fucking trees covering the house, and I went in, and there was literally cars stacked on top of cars, like burnt out, like camper vans and stuff, and it was just a scrap heap in this residential area in the residential garden to the side. So went into the property, and this was like crazy hoarder, like stuff. So basically what happens is when hoarders, they just pile stuff all the way up, and then there's like a tiny slither that they kind of walk around. So there's a little part, like pathway into each room, kind of, that you can see. And this property was repossessed, but the man who'd been repossessed was still staying in that property.
Oh my God.
So I had to inform the bank. I was like, because I was in there kicking about, and then I felt rustling. That's a bit weird. I was like, is that? I said, nah. So I didn't think it. Like, I was like, is that actually a person in there? And then we get a phone call from the bank. You're like, yeah, that was actually, like,
That's Jimmy.
yeah, Jimmy's still in there. We can't sell it right now until he actually physically leaves the house. But yeah, I found a fleshlight in a box.
Yeah. Unused.
Not after I was done. It was in a tenanted property, and it was actually before you came on board at Prime, and I went out, and there was a flat in the West End, and messaged the tenant. He's like, yeah. He's like, I'm away for a couple of weeks. Like, feel free to go in. And just at the bottom of the bed, so we're still in a box, but like at the bottom of the bed. I was like, does he know that that's there?
You left out.
Maybe he did, yeah. If you're new to property and scouring Rightmove from your first deal, what's the biggest piece of advice you could give?
So I think if you're new to property, you need to start seeing what's out there and what's being done. And I think the best way of doing that is to join investor networks, source or networks. These are online communities that are, typically local. So there's loads in around central belt of Scotland and up in Aberdeen, where people that invest come together, and they're part of WhatsApp groups. They have like weekly coaching calls where everyone talks about what they're doing, and it's people that are actually doing it in practice. They're not just talking about it. They're actually going out and buying properties.
Get around like-minded people.
Yeah, because what you might think you're interested in property-wise might be because you've only seen or read a very small part of what's out there. Mm-hmm. And then you get around people that are doing loads of different strategies, and you're like, oh, that actually sounds really a lot more for me. But you'll only know that by getting around those kind of people. So you don't know what you don't know. I would say if you've got a pot of money, let's say, and you want to get started, rather than just be like, right, let's buy a buy to let and spunk all your money, get around other people that are doing other things that are maybe further ahead, and that might change the order you do things in, or even the direction you go in, because you don't know what you don't know. That's what I would say. What would you say?
I'm a little bit conflicted, purely for the fact that I think you do just need to pull the trigger sometimes and buy something, and kind of, I learn how by doing. And especially from the number of people that we see, that they just want to gather as much information. They're course junkies. They go and do one of the property courses, they go and do another one, then they join the network, and then they're part of all the networks. But how many properties have you bought? None yet. So how much money have you spent on courses? Like 30 grand. You could have bought a property. You could have bought a property and like figured it out. But also, if you just buy something and then you lose all your money on it, or it's not a good deal, or you can't refinance, or make loads of mistakes.
Get information, get around people, but also take action. Okay, questions from the gram. So in the context of what was the biggest mistake you made when buying your first property, we asked that question on Instagram, and here are some of the responses we got. Wanted to live in it instead of flip. Wanted to live in it instead of flip. And that was a mistake.
So they bought the property to live in it while doing the flip? Is that what they did?
I don't understand what the mistake was.
Oh, so they lived in it while doing the refurb, but they were getting too attached to the property, so it was like it's their own home at that point. So then when they wanted to sell it on, it's like, oh, but this is our house now.
Ah, okay. Makes sense. Well, I guess it comes down to, if you try and get a good investment property that's also where you live, you'll end up with a very average place to live and a very average investment property. So if you're going to buy an investment property, buy an investment property. If you're going to buy somewhere to live, buy somewhere to live, and take into account what you actually want from it.
Mm-hmm. It's funny, when Stacey and I moved from Edinburgh through to Glasgow, like, I knew, like, ultimately we were going to live there for a few years, but then once we moved out, we would change it onto a buy-to-let mortgage and rent it out. So we were looking at a 3-bedroom ground floor flat on Skirving Street. The flat was fucking massive. But I was determined to get this property because I was like, we can turn it into an HMO. And it was not the nicest flat that we'd seen. Mm-hmm. It was huge, but like, it was just the two of us in a dug. Like, we did not need a flat that size. But I was so determined. And it was the Church of Scotland were selling it. And so home report was 185 grand, which obviously now, saying that, a 3-bedroom flat on Skirving Street is worth considerably more than 185,000. This was like 2019, by the way. So I offered 160, went to 165. They were considering it. And they basically said, look, if you offer 175, you'll get it. And I was like, nah. Top offers 170. And they were like, oh, sorry, somebody else has offered, so it's going to a closing date next week. I was like, fuck. Obviously, I actually offered home report for it to try and get it. Yeah. Then it went over.
Yeah, as they do.
Absolutely raging. But again, I was only buying that with okay, it will be a great investment. Yeah. We would have had to live in it and do it up and stuff like that. And do you know the irony is, the flat that we ended up buying was a far better flat to live in. It's a better street. And it's also, we got that for 160, it's now worth 250. So that's the capital growth and buying in a really good area.
Where you make your money, it's capital growth.
And obviously that is now a rental as well, and we're getting seriously good rent for it.
Yeah.
So like, you can, but I knew what I could definitely rent that at with that in mind, but I also bought somewhere I was happy to live in, want to be in a certain area. Because if you buy a property that you know you'll be happy living in, other people will also be happy living there. But if you're just buying an investment property, and because I had a conversation with somebody the other day, I'm like, oh, I don't really like the area. And I'm like, you're not going to fucking live there. Who cares? It's like, it's a £50,000 property and the rent's 600 to 650. You can make the flat really nice inside, but if it's a numbers game,
Yeah, it's like I wouldn't live there. Well, you don't have.
You don't have to.
You're not going to live there. So your tenant's going to live there, and someone's going to be happy to rent that from you. So if numbers work, do it.
Yeah, and if you are very specific, and you're like, oh, well, I only buy properties where I would live, then you're gonna have your pool of properties you can buy is going to be so much smaller than if you just look at it as a purely numbers based criteria. But if you are buying a property to flip, then do it up and then sell it on. Like,
I guess people can, because if you don't pay capital gains tax when you sell your own place or on the uplift. So I think what some people do is they buy somewhere, they live there while they're doing it up, and then they'll sell it and not pay any tax on the profit.
Apparently HMRC are cracking down on this. It's now like, because it's a strategy that is being used on people, like, because people own properties in companies, but they don't actually own their assets themselves, and then they're doing this and like getting a building company in to do it all up, and then they just like, I lived here for 6 months and then sold it.
Yeah, so they do it, and it can be a good way to get on the ladder and build up a pot. Is if you buy a place that needs work, you do it up, and then you sell it after a couple of years. The uplift, you're not taxed on.
Yeah, definitely. So another one, got competitive at auction instead of sticking to my numbers.
It's funny, we have a mutual letting agent in Edinburgh who said that she just does not bid in live auctions because she is too competitive and will always overpay if she is in the live bidding environment. So she only offers before the auction. And it was this specific property in Bathgate that she was really interested in. And I think on the day we can see who logs on and who registers for the auction. Who do we see logging on and registering? The letting agent. And I think she let it get the best of her. But I guess that's if you're really emotional and you're very competitive, make offers before the auction. Make offers before the auction because the stress and the heat of the moment is not there. You can negotiate in your own time. There's not a timer, and you'll avoid making some expensive mistakes by overbidding on stuff.
The thing is, obviously the auction is designed that way to get people, oh, I want this. And going an extra £1,000 doesn't break the bank. Going an extra £2,000 doesn't break the bank. But I've seen two big time investors, and this is a live event. And at this point, they're not playing, can I make money on this? They're playing chicken to see who's going to hold the bag, because they don't want the other person to buy it, but they want to make sure that they squeeze their margins as much as possible. Really fucked up. Because what some people would do is they'll if in the live auctions anyway, so if they see someone and they see bidding on it, but like, would you want a JV on this? Somebody's joint venture, so instead of one of them trying to buy it and just doing it all themselves, they'll be like, okay, well, we can definitely buy it together and we'll just split the profits, opposed to the previous example when they just bidding it up and then neither of them make any money. Especially like one of the guys that was doing it, I mean, he's seriously wealthy, so at which point he could just hold it forever and never have to sell it. So if you're bidding against somebody like that, but you do need to have your numbers, and if you lost out from that extra £1,000, would you be kicking yourself? So you can always ask.
We always say make your offers before auction because that's the best time to do it. You can negotiate term. You can say I need 8 weeks, I need 6 weeks. In a live auction, you're tied to 4 weeks, and it's very strict, and the reserve is very strict as well. So, okay,
but
next one.
I would always say bid in the auction, because we had a property with actually. Well, I need to check the bank to see if the guys paid us, but they had the sellers had an offer of 140, and then they were like, "Nah, we'd rather go to the auction," and it sold for 132 in the auction. They were like, "Oh, we'll just take it." So if that person, and the person who bid 140 was not the person that bought it for 132, he was like, I'm not bidding the auction.
There we go. There we go. So buying a property from a sourcer and not doing my own research. Oof. I guess that's the issue with giving someone a lot of trust with a lot of money and decisions that involve a lot of money. Yeah, I mean that can be a real painful lesson. But you do need to understand what you're doing, because if you can't give someone 100% trust on where to put your money, because it's not their money.
Correct. Ultimately, they get paid when the property sells, or when you agree to buy the property from them. But sources also get it wrong sometimes, and that's from no fault with their own. Sometimes they just get it wrong, and you can't hold a sourcer responsible for you not analysing the numbers. The issue is, obviously, people can be given skewed data and say, oh, well, it's a cracking deal. Oh, fuck. I thought we got away with it. I bet we've said it like 20 times and just it's just all lumps at the bottom.
I know. I'm just pretending to take it.
Absolutely disgusting. Again, if you're buying a property from a sourcer, then you need to have a level of willingness to say, okay, well, worst case scenario, it could be this. Best case scenario, it could be that. But how much time are you willing to spend? And what is your end goal? Because sometimes if you buy a bad deal, I said it again.
Oh, for fuck.
If you buy a bad property and it doesn't work out, you've learned something. Maybe don't trust blindly what someone has said.
Yeah, always do your own due diligence.
And ultimately, we deal with sources. We deal with sources. Jesus Christ!
Oh, for fuck's sake, God.
It's not even in the context that we're talking. So we are always speaking to sourcers because they have buyers, and we obviously have a lot of properties for sale. There is a place for them, but do not just blindly hand over trust and say, "Oh yes, what they're saying is gospel."
Yeah,
you do need to do a level of due diligence.
Sure money.
Yeah,
sure money. Okay, next, not having a Scooby on how to calculate a refurb. Okay, so how should someone look to calculate a refurb or estimate a refurb if they're looking at a property?
Get a builder. If you don't know,
ask someone that
ask somebody that does.
Simple.
That would be my.
Yep.
Just get a builder and say, look, I'm looking to buy properties and I'm going to do them up. I'm going to flip them. I'm going to do them up to put them on the rental market. Because most builders will go, excellent, cool. And if you know that if you are going to be a good source of business to a builder, they will definitely go, okay. They'll probably come out a couple of times with you, depending on how busy they are and your relationship with them. But then after that, you should be able to, if you went to a property and took a video of it and sent it to them, they'll probably be able to give you a rough price anyway, within like £2,000 to £5,000, I'd imagine. Obviously, there's things that come up during refurbs.
Just factor it in as a contingency.
Yeah, that you don't plan for, but it's part of the game. If you don't know how to do if you don't know how to do something, ask somebody that knows.
Perfect. Didn't factor in how long things would take, and I got stuck on a bridge. So a bridging loan is just is short-term finance. It's usually quite expensive. It's only used to bridge a gap so that you can then refinance or sell onto a longer-term loan, which is a lot more cost-effective, or obviously just sell and exit.
So this guy, 3 to 6 months, you would want to be on a bridge for.
So this guy gets stuck on a bridge.
I'm stuck on a bridge with the property.
Okay, well, I guess he got stuck on a bridge because he couldn't refinance or he couldn't sell. I'm going to guess he couldn't sell if he was doing a flip. What would the advice be for someone that's going to buy something to flip, let's say, and they're going to use bridging finance?
You need to have multiple exits. If you're buying to flip, can you potentially refinance it and run it as a service accommodation or as a buy-to-let in the interim until the market gets better in that area or the time of year gets better for sales?
Yeah, I guess the higher the value, the more likely it's needing to be like an active strategy like SA. Because if you've got like a flip that you're wanting to sell for, say, 350 grand, refinancing it and then renting it out for $1,000 a month, if that's what the rent would be, or 1,500 quid isn't great.
It's just covering your costs, so you're not paying money.
Yeah.
Because like ultimately, if you're on a bridge, it's costing you money every month. Whereas if you refinance as a mortgage for £1,000 and your rent's £1,000, you're not paying anything. You're not making anything, but you're also not losing money every month.
Yeah, it's a difficult position to be in.
It's not somewhere that I would want to be.
But multiple exits probably good.
Multiple exits is definitely want to have that in mind. And again, it can come down to the initial numbers that you've ran. Can you not sell it because you need to sell it for £200,000 in order to pay off the bridge and pay off the private investor or make whatever,
and make the profit you wanted to make?
Correct.
Sometimes you just need to sell it and take a bit less if it means getting it sold.
That's it. And it's like, okay, I didn't make any money on this one, but I'm also not losing money.
But I'm unscathed. I can go again.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, what is the first rule?
Don't lose money.
Don't lose money. And the second rule is don't forget rule number 1.
That's it. Exactly. Because losing money is, to recoup what you've lost, is so much more energy and effort that it's just really not worth losing any money in the first place.
Yeah.
Okay, next mistake someone made was they tried to buy everything and they're getting pickier now.
Why do I feel like that's Chris, dear?
Still buy everything. What would you say to that? To avoid buying everything and going on a spree because you want to build a portfolio and then maybe being left with stuff you don't want to hold?
I think when you're starting, and if you're just, I want to get 100 properties, and you buy anything, and you refinance and you leave too much money in, then you've got a source to try and pay down some debts. While you're doing all those things, you are sharpening your tools, you're getting more market research. Ultimately, once you have a certain level of wealth, you can be picker and you buy better assets. Ultimately, wealthy business owners or people that are in high-paid corporate jobs, they're not looking for BMV deals to recycle their capital. They buy properties in good areas. They're buying properties in Edinburgh, the West End, Shaw and stuff like that. They'll pay home report.
They'll pay above.
Yeah,
just to buy something really good.
Boom, there we go. They'll keep the money in it and they will hold it for 20 years. But what they have is a large pot of cash already available to them, and that pot is constantly being filled by their job. If you don't have a job that is constantly throwing new gold coins into your pot, then it's harder to be pickier. And that's why the BRR method, the buy, refurbish, refinance, is so popular amongst newbie investors, because they have that small pot of £50,000 to £100,000 that they have to reuse for every single purchase. Ultimately, you want to have good assets in your portfolio, but it's property investing is an evolution. You don't start by buying £500,000 flats in Edinburgh. You might start buying 40 grand flats in Falkirk, and once the boulder gets moving down the hill, it's going faster and faster, and you're getting more flats and your rent's coming up, then at which point you can go, well, actually, I'm going to sell some of these lower value, higher yielding properties, recoup some of my capital, and I'll buy the better assets to have in the portfolio. So there's nothing wrong with buying low value, high yielding properties, but you need to understand that they're probably always going to remain low value, but you make your money in the rent. So it's important to not be over leveraged in those properties, not really gearing up on them, because if you ever need to sell them and you've got a steamy valuation on a property that's probably worth 50,000 and you've pulled 50,000 out of it, then is somebody going to want to probably buy that for 45-ish?
You're selling to a tight-fisted investor, just like you were at the start, who's going to want to offer you pennies in the pound.
Exactly.
So let's wrap this up. Hopefully you've learned something today. And where else could you get information, John, if you wanted to start investing in property and get some more information?
So hit up the Scottish Property Podcast. Listen to Nick Ponty, Stephen Clark. Is it every week they do it?
Every week, yeah.
Every week they've got one out. So there's plenty of information.
Proud sponsors
Yes.
of the podcast.
So listen on Spotify or wherever you're listening to. Go on YouTube.
And where are you going to go and buy your properties, or where should people go and buy properties?
Obviously, this has come to prime property auctions, where you can deal with people who just want to sell you gaffs.
Oh, for fuck's sake. You bastard. So follow us on socials. So Instagram, Lewis_property_auctioneer. John is the same, John_property_auctioneer. We have YouTube channels where we go sort of deeper on topics that some of you guys want to hear about. And as always,
Get hammered.